All right. Good evening. Welcome to the Upset Podcast. We are here. And tonight we're talking about making pastoring great again. Coming up
Oh,
next.
what?
All right. Once again, welcome back to the Upset Podcast. We're happy to be back live with you this Sunday. And I'm happy to have these wonderful people here as well. Hey, guys.
Yes, yes, yes,
Good
yes.
to be
Good
here. Good
evening.
to be with the family.
Good to
That's
see
right.
everyone.
It's crazy, right? I mean, it's just difficult getting together.
I know. Times.
Yeah,
And we happy that the two people at the bottom row here
yeah.
are 1 year wiser since we last came together.
Another year
Both celebrated
older and
birthdays.
deeper in debt.
Yeah, I do
He
appreciate that
said,
wisdom and good life. Yes.
that's
Yeah.
right. So happy
You guys,
birthday
you
to
guys want to tell us what year it is for you, or do you?
Absolutely not. I got to kill you if I tell you.
Well, I'm 47 by the grace of God, so
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
thank God for another year.
I don't believe
All
you.
right. We'd love
Yeah.
to see it.
You don't believe what I'm thinking, God?
No, 47. Really, dude. Really.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
You know, it's one of the things
Hello.
that we take. Hello, Mary. How are you?
Hi, Mary.
But I take note of the fact that on the Upset podcast, Keenan, the men, our haircuts always look the same. But
Hmm.
have you ever noticed how the women, Marlena has a doctoral do now,
That's
and
right. That
Stepping
comes
it
with a
up, sir.
different thing.
Stepping it up some notches.
there you go. There you go. Looks good on you. Looks good on you.
Yes, it
Thank
does. And I do want to shout out a couple of people that I ran into over the weekend who watched the upset and were
Yeah.
happy to share that they did. My sister from Ebenezer, I think I remember your name. I really do. I know you think I think you told me you commented as Lillian or was it Jillian when you comment. But thank you for saying hello. Hello, Jocelyn. And also ran into some people. Last night we had the Bay Area Town Hall at Sharon
wow.
Temple.
Okay.
And also met a few individuals who said that they watch faithfully every Sunday. So we want to shout you out. One of them, Tally, I'm going to do this live because I want to be accountable. She asked me to ask you if you remember the Jolly Sisters.
Oh, of
Oh,
course.
Lord.
Of course. I mean, the Jolly Sisters, my first church in Cambridge, Maryland,
Yeah.
they sang, and I mean, just really just sweet people, and they could all cook.
Oh,
And
okay.
I'm almost sure that was Sister, not Jolly. Oh man, her name
Yeah.
escapes me right now. Her
Yeah,
name.
she told me
I remember
too.
the Jolly Sisters, of course, very well. Sweet people.
Yeah, I
Really
told her.
wonderful
I said
people.
he'll remember you guys. He doesn't forget.
Oh, please.
Who was that with the great memory? Is it elephants that got great memories?
What's your point?
No, I'm talking about the memory.
What's your point, Doctor?
No, I'm trying to say he's no elephant. He don't have that great of a memory. I was trying to think. I think it is elephant, right? He's got really
Yeah.
It's elephants.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's so good. I'm so glad that people waited for us.
Yes, yes. Sorry about this little slow start today. We are here. We are here. We are resilient.
Tosh, I want to throw out too with some people that I met at Bladensburg who watch us regularly, and I just want to
Okay.
shout out at them. And they were so glad to see me live and in person. I just
Yes, yes. It's always good to meet. We're talking. We just see each other. When we're doing this thing, and so when you get to see who's on the other side of the comments or even the number of viewers, it's good to put those faces. So thank
It
you all.
really is. It's really nice to meet people like
Yeah.
that.
That's Ronnie said we're all famous. Oh my goodness.
Famous or infamous. It's one or the other. It's one or the other.
Oh, somebody said happy birthday to the sunshines. That's the two birthday
Thank you. Thank
babies
you.
we had here in the month of June. But yeah, so we would be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about the
Yeah.
headlines. The
Mm.
disturbing headlines. I
Can
can't even
only
say from the news.
pray for what could happen. Lord help us.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know, I'm sorry,
okay.
Tina. Go ahead, man.
No,
Go ahead.
unless you've been under a rock, America has bombed Iran, and Trump is calling for a new regime in Iran. Just it's like Iraq all over again. And he said, I just saw it on TV, make Iran great again. That's
Oh,
just unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
So what happened to him not trying to change the regime? What happened to that?
Yeah, good, great question.
I think he lied.
I was gonna say, can we
Yeah,
believe anything
I
that
think he
comes?
And
lied.
also why he decided to send the forces in to bomb. I think that's a lie too.
Hmm.
The reason
Do you
why.
think there's another reason behind it, other than?
Did you just hear he said that I don't know, one of their officials said that if America got involved, that they have these nuclear bombs or something already dispersed throughout the US and they could use them. And
Well,
so that was his
yeah.
reason.
Well,
I just don't know if that's true.
I think
Think
that's
it had to
cow.
be,
I
but
think that's cow feathers.
I just
But
don't believe his words.
it is. It is not the first time. I remember, all of us can remember Colin Powell with his
Mm,
chart board and his pointer showing where the weapons of mass destruction were
yeah.
Mm,
way back. That got us into the Afghanistan war.
Mm.
That is the longest prosecuted war in American history. 21 years we spent messing around in Afghanistan because of weapons of mass destruction that weren't there. I'm not here to say that Iran was not trying to build a nuclear weapon, but there's something uh, unseemly and hypocritical about the only nation in the history of the world that we
Mm.
know of that has ever used an atomic weapon bombing another nation because they might be trying to build one. Um, there's something about a nation saying, we can't trust you with novel weaponry. So we're going to bomb you with weapons that have never been used before. This GBU 57 bunker buster bomb has never been used before.
Mm.
Wow.
And so we're using a novel weapon on a country that we think is trying to build a weapon.
Right. It's a threat. It's a threat.
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
but Israel. Israel says it's a threat. Netanyahu, he says it's a threat. And so Trump just go ahead, design this whole movement. And I'm sure most of America, they're probably glad that I shouldn't say that most of America, but there's a large amount of people glad, hey, we're standing up for Israel,
yeah.
Mm.
So yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's
that's
overkill
Yeah.
now.
I saw a lot of commentary and various countries, just saying this wasn't the best idea, and this fear of retaliation is really strong. I mean, I I just can't. It's like you hear it and you hate to be surprised by these things anymore, but you're like, really? Like,
It's like what Pastor Rodney said, without Congress.
yeah, yeah.
I
It's
mean,
like,
it's
Yeah.
just a man making his own decisions for a country of people.
that's been gone.
Uh,
That whole thing. I mean,
Senator from Virginia, I forget his name right now. He ran for vice president a
Tim
few years
Kaine.
back.
Tim Kaine.
Tim Kaine
mhm.
is suing under the War Powers Act,
Okay. I wonder.
saying that the president has overstepped his bounds. That the War Powers Act demands that the president consult with Congress and get approval before he acts with hostility toward another sovereign nation. You know,
So what happens now? I mean, like what can happen? Like,
well, you can't take the bombs back. That's for sure.
that's what I'm.
Yeah.
The courts can rule in his favor, but still, dude probably won't comply.
I mean, we have we have on our hands a despot. I'm thinking now of Nebuchadnezzar. I'm thinking of Sennacherib and the kings of Assyria. Thinking of the pharaohs and how they lustily bragged about their unquenchable and irresistible power over other nations. And the prophets who talked about these nations that would worship their weaponry, and we have become that nation. And even though we may not have voted for him, we are still a part of the nation that he represents, and we will also endure any judgment that falls upon this country because of this person who is in charge.
And terrorism can come in any form, any place, and
but even on a domestic level, I mean, with sending in, activating a National Guard in individual states, in California, that's up to the governor. He just bypassed all of that.
Yeah, the court ruled. Did you see where the court ruled in his favor, though, Kikina?
Did they?
Oh, that's why. Because Cali thought they were going to have possession of their state again that Friday, but they didn't.
Yeah.
Was that the local? Was that the state Supreme Court or?
I think it was. Either that or a circuit court ruled in favor that the president could act because of the exigency of the moment. It's almost as though people are bewitched by this man. I mean, I was listening to Mark Rubio, who used to despise him. He called him Little Marco, and they made all sorts of insinuating, condescending statements about each other. And now Marco Rubio is starting to sound like Donald Trump.
Yeah.
It amazes me.
Wow. Yeah, I was annoyed. Oh, go ahead, Keena.
I said, do you see the interview with Ted Cruz and
Yeah. How they were shouting at each other.
Yeah. So you don't know nothing about Iran.
Tucker.
Carlson Tucker.
Yes.
I never thought that I would be saying, "Go ahead, Carlson Tucker."
I know that. Because we have predicted this. People predicted. Elon Musk,
but from a theological point, Ted Cruz reflects a large number of Christians thinking that the Bible says you have to support Israel, and people feel that it is necessary to support Israel, and many people perceive that Israel has more to do with us as Christians than any of the Islamic nations, and they have no idea that Christianity is closer to Islam in many ways than it is to Judaism. I mean, but they have this crazy idea in their head that we are mandated to support Israel.
And the whole dispensationalism. So they believe that Israel plays into prophecy. Yeah. That's why if you go to Israel right now, well, I don't know right now, but 10 years ago, they had the menorah, the candlestick. Because you ask them, why don't y'all do sacrifices no more? They said, well, we're waiting for the temple to be built. And then once the temple is built, then we're going to get all this stuff back. I'm like, but there's a Muslim dome right there. They're like, oh, but it's going to come back. And those that believe that dispensationalism is all part of prophecy. So Israel will get back to be strong, and then Christ come back. So
it's Well,
mercy. Here we are. Mercy. Yeah. Anything else? I kind of felt.
I just want to say this. So I'm sorry, Latasha, but I just see a comment in the chat, and I normally don't even look at the comments. But all of us here, we're not Democrat or Republican. I would say that, right? Is that a? I'm bipartisan.
I'm independent.
Yeah, I'm independent. I just want to say that. So, because somebody made a chat, but you Democrats
here,
and all
you're
that
seeing
stuff,
these from Democrats and Republicans, everything that's been said. So I don't think that this.
Why can't we just make truth comments without being divided into political parties? Because it is what it is. I mean, it's what we see. And according to the Constitution, the president has to have consent and agreement of Congress in order to go to war, unless like it's an immediate attack on us. Then he can do that, but otherwise, it's not for one man, not a king position to make those kind of decisions and put a whole country of people at jeopardy of death.
It's actually a scary thought. That
I think it's kind of it should be noted that the president has acted 1 week after the No King rally.
That's what I was just thinking.
Yeah.
It was like, well, I'll show you kind of. I mean, listen.
I think he was acting before then too. He's just being consistent.
Good point.
Being consistent.
Well,
Point taken.
well, that was
Point
the reason
taken.
for it in the first place, right? Yeah,
Point
just
taken.
showing it. But he's just not phased. I feel like he's also showing he's not phased by these things, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anywho, well, since we
Indeed.
got a late start, I think it's time for us to jump right into this discussion. I hope this title wasn't triggering for anyone. I would hate to
Ding,
give
ding, it
him
was for me. But
power over certain words and phrases in the English language. But you know, this discussion that we're going to have this evening, those who have, you know, been watching us, you know, pretty faithfully, you may recall one of our discussions we were having. I forgot what we were talking about that week, but
Well, yeah. Well, we drifted into the idea that there was going to be a new union formed. Yeah, a new denomination, within the Seventh-day Adventist denomination, they were going to form a new union in the Northeast.
they were dividing.
Yeah. Yes. Northeast Conference was separating. We were talking. Oh, yes. We were talking about being top heavy. You know, administrating, creating more administration.
Someone brought that up. Yeah.
Yes, someone very, very appropriately brought that up, and it almost seemed like pastoring was no longer the goal. Like the start, the middle, and the finish. Like pastoring was almost like a gateway to somewhere else. And and so we wanted to kind of talk about this a little bit more. I mean, has pastoring become, you know, not so favorable in many
I
people's
love
eyes?
pastoring. I mean, I don't desire to stop it. I love being with the people. I love being in the community, meeting people, sharing with them Jesus, reaching out to the broken. I love that Tal. I'm going to throw a tomato at you.
All right. Well, I don't know.
True heart.
Yeah, I'm with you, Marlena. Absolutely. Greatest job in the world, you know, and it's a calling. So,
and as a matter of fact, my emphasis of study is church leadership and community witnessing, Mr. Talaferro.
I believe you. All
right, should we get to this?
Yeah, because Ty's going to tell us how he feels
about us.
He's going to project.
This is
so I had to let the congregation know who I really am versus the whitewash.
They put their disclaimers out there up front. So.
I tell you, they have jobs to maintain.
Rodney Grisham put in the chat, everyone wants to be the president.
Well, and he makes a point, and Rodney and Floyd, you're right. I said a new union. It's a new conference. Yeah. That's being formed. I apologize for that mistake, and I appreciate the correction. But that's what triggered this conversation. Someone amongst us, whose name shall not be mentioned, took exception to the fact that, you know, why do we need another administrative office opening, which would basically call for more ministers being taken out of the pulpit? And that brings us to our discussion for today. And we're going to move through these slides really quickly so we can have real discussion about this, because I know that Keenan and Marlena are very serious about this topic. We want to make sure that we hear from them and understand what challenges they might be facing in ministry. So let's take a look at this thing that we call the calling to ministry. I mean, the calling to ministry is more than just calling to ministry, because there are times that it means something other than being what you classically think of as a minister. And we want to ask the question today, those who are called to ministry is one thing, but is the Seventh-day Adventist pulpit ministry, the parish ministry, those who actually serve as under shepherds, providing watch care over the souls of people, is it losing its viability? In other words, pastoring in the Adventist church, is it no longer as viable as it once was? Are people trying to escape the parish and ministry in the pulpit over the souls of men and women for other positions of ministry within the denomination? Let's take a look at it. Okay, let's get started by looking at the Seventh-day Adventist church. You think of a church, you typically think of a building and all, but the Seventh-day Adventist church is not simply a structure. It's not just a church. It's not simply a place where people worship. It is a multi-layered, stratified organism that consists of 5 separate layers of function and operation. And we'll go through them briefly because you can be ministering in any one of the 5. At the base is that layer that most of us know well. That is the local congregation. It's where people come together, where people worship and where people fellowship, where the tithe is collected, and where ministry actually is performed. It is at the local church level where ministry is performed, at the local church level, where funds are collected to facilitate ministry. Okay, that's level number 1. Level number 2 is the local conference level. That is the administrative level with which most Adventist members are familiar. Your conference president, your conference communications director. Tasha is a communication director for the Allegheny East Conference. We see these administrators more than any other administrator in the church. Most of them are not pastors, and by that, they are not over a congregation, but they are still ministers. And they are a part of the church's ministry, but they are not a part of the church's pastorate. Next is the union level, the local union. A union is a collection of conferences in a certain area. The Allegheny East Conference is a part of the Columbia Union. The union level typically administers institutions like hospitals and schools and other levels of administrative function of the church that most members never really have to deal with. The union is the level that provides ordination of ministers, even though people at the union rarely know the ministers that they're providing ordination for, but they have the power to provide ordination. Then there is the division level. A collection of unions becomes a division. We are a part of the NAD, the North American Division. It's a larger section of the world, and that is an administrative level that most members know nothing about. I mean, we just know that they're up there somewhere doing something at some time with something for some reason, but we're not exactly sure what they do unless you know church function and church polity, but they are there. And then last but not least, when everybody comes together under one great big umbrella, it is called the General Conference. Now, those 5 levels of church function all have ministers working within their ranks. And as the church has grown, the number of ministers who are employed by the church has grown with it. Since 1988, because church membership has grown, the number of pastors has increased by 85%. Pretty good, isn't it? An 85% increase in pastors serving congregation as the church has grown during the greatest growth period of the church from 1988 till the present time. But during that same period of time, ladies and gentlemen, strap in and hold on to your wigs, because since 1988, where we've seen an 85% growth of pastoral in the pastoral force, there has been an increase in church administration by, anybody want to take a guess? Take a guess, somebody. Come on, let me hear you. Come on. Stick your hand in the air and say what you think in your heart. Come on and tell us. Keenan, I know you've got an idea. Come on.
25%.
25%. The administrative level of the church. Now, the pastoral level has increased by 85%. I think the administrative level increased by 25%. What would you say, Keenan?
Yeah, what Latasha said.
Okay. Floyd Johnson said 70%. Rodney Grissom said 200%. Well, you're all close. Since 1988, the administrative level of the Seventh-day Adventist Church has increased by 800%. Let that sink in for a moment. 800%.
Since 1988.
Since 1988. So now you have the associate secretary to the assistant to the director of the broom closet. 800%. That is often reflected in budget. Typically, a conference's budget is about 1/3 is in salary for pastors. The rest goes somewhere else. And that's just the conference budget. And only about 1/2 of every dollar that you send in tithe goes to the conference. So the rest of that goes in other places is going to pay for ministries that most members do not see. That is not to say that the ministries aren't important. It's simply saying that there seems to be a priority on administration. Why is that? And you know, but here's the thing. If the administrative force has increased by 800%, most of those people who went there were coming out of churches. Why is it that Adventist pastors, when they get a chance to become an administrator, they readily, willingly, and typically anxiously leave their pulpit? Let me show you something. These three men, I happen to know all three of them. To your left, you see the Honorable William H. Gray, the former pastor. He is deceased now. He died a couple of years ago. He is the former pastor of the Bright Hope Baptist Church in Philadelphia. His father was the pastor of Bright Hope Baptist before him. In the middle is the Honorable Raphael Warnock, the pastor of the Ebenezer Seventh-day Adventist Church down in Atlanta, Georgia. And then to the right, there is the Honorable Reverend Floyd Flake, the pastor, until recently. Well, his health has failed him. He was the pastor of the Allen AME Church. Each of those individuals had other positions of authority and power. Reverend Bill Gray was Congressman Bill Gray, and the third most powerful human being in the United States of America as the congressional whip for a number of years. He did not leave his church. Reverend Raphael Warnock is Senator Raphael Warnock of Georgia. He was the pastor when he was elected. He is still the pastor of the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia. Reverend Floyd Flake was not only the president of Wilberforce College, he then went on to become Congressman Floyd Flake and still stayed at Allen AME Church. That's not all. You can look around and you will see that there are individuals who have positions of authority and power and influence. Bishop J. Drew Sheard is the pastor of Emmanuel Church of God, Church of God in Christ. He is now the bishop of the Church of God in Christ worldwide. He is still the pastor of his church. Bishop William Barber, until recently, when his health began to fail him because he has ankylosing spondylitis, which is a terrible arthritic disease, he was the pastor of his church down in North Carolina while he was leading the Poor People's Campaign and also while he was teaching at Harvard. Reverend Dr. Cynthia Hale is the pastor of a very strong church in Atlanta, Georgia. And also she was recently the president of the ministerial conference at Hampton. She is still the pastor of her church. Reverend Dr. William Shaw was the president of the National Baptist Convention for 2 terms. And while he was the president of the National Baptist Convention, he retained the pulpit at the White Rock Baptist Church here in the city of Philadelphia, where he is still the pastor at the age of 93 years of age. He has been pastor for over 60 years there. They did not leave their pulpits, even though they took on administrative jobs. But on the other hand, ladies and gentlemen, I could show you a number of Adventist pastors. As soon as they get the call, they leave the parish, never to return.
Dr. Bird kept his church.
Yeah, Dr. Bird got his church.
He kept pastoring.
Yeah, that made your whole argument now.
No, that's just one of them.
Just one, just
you know what?
10%.
You know what? He took the, actually, it's sort of like a conference project where he's trying to create a massive church in the Dallas area. So we tip our hat to him for that, because a lot of these people up there Ben Jones loves pastoring. Ben Jones perceives himself to be a pastor at heart. He really didn't want to be president of a conference, but he is. But when these men go into the office, they not only don't come back, people view it as a demotion if they do go back. What is it about us that makes us think that pastoring is on the low end of ministerial performance? Why is it that other churches and these are churches typically that are growing, why is it that they are willing to invest in their parish ministry and their pulpit ministry, while our guys will pack up and leave and never return again. I remember my good friend, my good mentor, Dr. Charles E. Bradford, was doing what all of the brethren do. They come to camp meeting and say, Bradford was saying, I love you, you men, you men in the field. I look forward to the day when I can come back. I said, we can fix that for you right now, Elder. I had to pay for that for a few years afterwards. So, that's a question to ask. Why? And if you all know that lately, not only have individuals been leaving the pulpit ministry to go into administration, some are just leaving, period. Myron Edmonds, out, gone. Pierre, what's Pierre's name was it Breath
Quinn?
of Life?
Quinn.
Yeah, Quinn, gone. Tons of, we're losing guys. Why do people want to leave the Adventist parish? Say that again?
All faiths has a pretty large number of people leaving the pulpit.
That's right, Marlena. That's right, Doc.
Yes, but
Someone said to be
why
chaplain.
is it that some are becoming chaplains?
Yeah, I see that.
But the question is, what is it about the Adventist parish ministry that has lost its viability? Why people are so willing now to leave it? And I'm going to be closing on this so we can have good time to talk. The Bible has something to say about what we should prioritize when it comes to ministry. There's only one place where there's an ordinal list of gifts in the Bible, and that is in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 28. Now, there are 3 different places where biblical gifts are listed, but only one place where they're ordinal, where it gives you a list that is prioritized. And the Apostle Paul says in 1 Corinthians 12, verse 28, and God has appointed in the church first apostles, second prophets, third teachers, then miracles, then gifts of healings, helping, administrating, and various kinds of tongues. Notice how he lists these things. He says first apostles, then second prophets, then third, he said teachers. And when you think about it, that prioritizing of the list makes all the sense in the world. The word apostle is a word that comes from a military source, a person who was designated with authority from a central place to bring order to some distant territory. An apostle was someone who would be sent to an area to project the values, principles, and the order from the mother company. An apostle was like an ambassador. He would go somewhere and say, I'm here to superimpose upon you the order of where I come from. That's why when Jesus was asked, how do we pray? Did you pray like this? Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. In other words, I'm here to bring from you the authority from heaven to superimpose upon you the order of heaven on what you're doing on earth. That's apostle, is someone who is sent to bring order and to maintain and nurture it. Secondly, is a prophet. Once order is established, somebody has to speak on behalf of God to give further orders. A prophet is someone who speaks on behalf of another. It doesn't necessarily mean foretelling. Sometimes it's forthtelling, as my friend Jesse Wilson would say. Speaking truth to power at times, speaking truth to error. But a prophet speaks on behalf of the one who sent the apostle in the first place. And third, there are the teachers, the individuals. Oh, let me put down there what that prophet is. And third, there are the teachers. Teachers are invested with the authority, and they have the gifts that allow them to provide the instruction so that people can learn how to continue to walk. It is the teacher that allows for discipleship. The apostle established the order, the prophet gives direction, and the teacher helps people to learn how to follow. These are the orders of the gifts according to the Bible. All of these are pastoral functions. You want to find administrative functioning? It's next to last on the list. It is last on the list is the gift of tongues. Next to last is administration. Why is it that we perceive administration to be first? Because if Keenan was elected to be the president of the Geopolitical conference tomorrow, we talk about him being promoted. When Marlena was asked to serve at the conference level for women's ministry, we all talked about how she was being lifted up. Why is it that administration appears to be a lift when in the Bible it is given next to last place. And as for tongues, Paul said, they will cease. So in reality, administration is last. Well, I tell you, I'm saying all of these things because Marlene and Keenan have taught me all of this, and I wanted to share it with you for our discussion. I don't have all the answers, but I am always in the company of those who have the ability to articulate with wisdom, sophistry, and with perspicacity. And so I say to you, why are we diminishing the authority, the value, and the power of the pulpit? What say you one? What say you all?
Oh, this is easy.
Of course it is.
For one, you said we.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily agree with that. With your whole entire, no, I'm not gonna say everything, but I don't agree. The whole thing. I mean, for it, you can't control how people look at things. If people want to look at it as a quote unquote promotion, I mean, that's on them. And every pastor is different. I know I don't look at it as a promotion. I can't speak for anybody else.
Can I ask you to do this though for me, Keenan? Can you look at it from the perspective of the zeitgeist, the spirit of the organization? How does the organization value things? How do we talk organizationally about these things, not individually?
No, I hear what you're saying. When you say we, who is the we?
Organizationally, I'm talking corporately, aggregately.
Or maybe I can't answer that question. I'm not sure how the we organizationally talk about this.
I mean,
may I say this? Because I think administration has is necessities. I think that it is important, and that's why the Bible has it still. But I think the focus of the church is different. It's not an individual church, but it becomes a group of churches or the people whom you minister to. And so I know our organizational structure is different from many other churches. For me, I love pastoring. That's why I had to apply for my position, because I love women's ministries too. So I do both, Mr. Talley, both.
Come on.
I do both.
She didn't say nothing yet.
I do both. I said I do both. And so, I mean, I love evangelism. But, when I was meeting with these women yesterday, I was like, Lord, I'm going to have multiple churches, because I will be ministering to people, who are so hungry and hurting. And so, sharing the gospel and leading people to Christ can come in more than one form.
I get you, but help me out, sis. I'm asking a very simple question. How do we corporately, how do we demonstrate our value of parish ministry in comparison to administrative ministerial work? And neither of you will answer that, and I don't know.
No, I answered it.
Tasha works up there.
Yeah, I'll just as a lay person, even before I started.
You're not a lay person.
You ain't a lay.
You're not
a lay person. Before I started.
You are behind a veil.
That's right.
No, I viewed administration on a different tier than pastoring. It almost seemed like you work in pastorate, you earn your years, and then you're elevated because of your leadership,
Note the word elevated. Why is it considered elevation?
It's considered elevation because you not only have influence on your local church, you now can impact how the entire conference moves.
You don't think that Bishop T.D. Jakes has influence beyond his local church?
Yeah, but I'm talking about the way our structure is.
But what I'm saying is,
but is it wait? Isn't a bishop elevation? You're now not a pastor over one church; you're a pastor over many churches.
Your central source of work, influence, and the exercising of your gift is your parish ministry. It's almost like we don't want to address the fact.
I think you don't like our answers.
You're not addressing.
But it is a promotion. It is
Why is it considered a promotion?
Okay, that's
how is it a promotion?
It's for instance.
Get her, Keenan, get her.
I'm talking about the way we view it. I'm not saying I agree with that, because working for the church the amount of time that I
But
have, I
why?
get to see all layers.
Why do we
It's
view it
considered
that way?
it's considered that because of the amount of influence, the decision making, the power, all of that when you any organization, if somebody is working in it and they go from something to the president, I mean, obviously the president has more say in how the organization operates, right? I'm talking about any other business.
But
So
the church is not to mimic any of. We are not to mimic
I'm
that
not
is not.
saying, but I'm
So
saying that
why do we do it? Is
But
my
Ty,
question
she's
is
saying
why
that's
do
how
we do it?
she looks at it.
I understand how she looks at it. I'm
look at our
asking why do
process.
we
Let's
do it
look at
that
our
way?
process for selecting our leaders. I mean, we have a checklist. All of these things have to have happened in order for them to be considered. So it's like it is set up to
Oh,
be some
you're
type
educating
of
me.
promotion.
You're educating me. What's the checklist?
Oh my
Oh,
father!
the
No, no,
requirements to be
I'm
president.
sorry.
Where's the
Help me out.
requirement?
Yeah, what's
It's
the
in our
checklist?
constitution, in
You
our
have to
bylaws.
pastor like
You
be
have
a
to be
pastor of
ordained. You have
a
to,
large
da, da, da.
church.
Yeah.
You
There's
have to be ordained.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and so I'm not saying I agree that I want to be very clear,
Mhm.
but I
Here's the
do
service.
think the way it's set up, it is viewed as that.
So you have a checklist to become an administrator, but you don't have one to become the pastor. Doesn't have that same checklist, right?
Pastor
Which
does.
It says,
demonstrates
The
yeah,
pastor does.
a diminished view of value.
Pastor does have checklists.
yeah, but
It's-
obviously you need a certain amount of years of pastoring to become president, correct?
It demonstrates a devaluing of the position of being a pastor.
But people can become a pastor, as soon as they graduate from seminary without any experience, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but you can't become a president without having
Why?
had pastoral experience.
Because Tally, you be talking about him or her like a dog if they don't know how to do the job.
Because
Yeah,
they don't
he'll be
understand
the
what you
first
do.
one.
I would not be the first one.
Mhm.
I think the highest calling of service is as a pastor overseeing the spiritual growth of a congregation. And then beyond that, we all have influence.
Yeah.
And I think, and based on what I just read, the Apostle Paul said the same thing.
But I think that's why we have more pastors than we do administrators. I don't want. I agree with you, Tally, in that there needs to be more value placed on pastors because I see what you all do, and I think it's remarkable. However, I've seen some strong administrators who are good at what they do and helping create structures so pastors can continue to do the ministry that they love and enjoy. That's not to say that I don't feel like they still, many of them have said they miss pastoring, like they
Oh,
they miss that interaction.
all of them say that, but they do not come back.
They're doing
If I
interim
miss my
pastoring
girlfriend, I
right
go
now.
back and
They
visit her.
feel like that is a calling as well. They feel like leadership is also something that God can call you
So
to.
let me make sure I'm hearing you guys right. So you're saying that that people really love pastoring and everybody just is really fond of the work and nobody really wants to leave it. They just called and so they begrudgingly, pack up and head to a hill far away up in Berks County or Bucks County, wherever the Pine Forge is.
No,
If
no.
I might add this, Tally, because you're taking away their ability to still be effective ministers over a broader area. The difference is we know, let's be real, church ministries is hard. Burnout, you have to deal with all kinds of people, some very demanding, some too much for words, right? So in that position, you don't have to deal with that at that level so much anymore. There's a little bit more freedom. You see people not every week, right? The same, but whenever you're called to do whatever, according to your job. So I would say that there's less stress in that area. But people, I would say if the person says they love ministry, that might be true. I can't deny that. However, even with the love, they can say, I love it, but I'm glad I don't have to do it every week now.
Exactly.
Got sermon preparation every week. Just some things that are different.
There's some comments in the chat too. I kind of want to engage our audience a little bit here. Floyd made mention that some presidents have been elected directly from the local church.
Oh
Now
yeah,
this,
that happens quite a bit. That
yeah.
happens. The
So
question isn't that does it happen, it's
so
why is it that people
view it
want
as
to leave
right.
the
And some
pastorate?
people feel that kind of Ronnie's raising this that maybe their gifts are more on the administrative side. Um, so they're like, oh, I've noticed that this side of ministry is not for me, but I do want to be a part of the church environment. Maybe I can be part of leadership. Aprons and heels, that's not okay. Pastorate is where the power is,
Ooh,
Not in the Adventist church.
and
because
what is the
the
power?
leadership of the church at both the conference and the higher entities within the Adventist church.
In influence. For example, as a pastor, Keenan, you don't have any authority over your assignment. You are assigned by the
Mhm.
conference.
Mhm.
Whereas the president and the others do have influence over your assignment. That's what they might mean by power. The church, the local congregation has no authority over who will be assigned to pastor their church. Now I know we have
Churches do some
Influence. They have
Yeah, some
influence.
Roman conference, they choose who they want to come.
yeah.
and that, but that is not a matter of polity. That is a matter of personality.
But that's how they choose their pastors now.
But that's personality. In other words, if you got, William Niles, who was a member of Ebenezer, had probably more authority than any pastor who wasn't in the office. And I say that, and Bill Niles was my good friend, and he used it with discretion, with wisdom, and as a spiritual man, and I appreciate it. But it was because of who he was. It wasn't because the system was designed to work that way. The only question I'm saying is that I perceive that we don't. I believe Floyd Johnson made a statement about sabbaticals. We don't nurture and support parish ministry as well as we need to. So it makes it easy to want to get out of it. Number one, for example, you're capitated salary wise. You can only make what you can make. And as you get to a certain point in life where your children are older, some of your needs have grown, your experiences better, and you realize that you're capitated in salary, you might say, I'd like to be able to make a little more, which is why most pastors now have a second job
True that.
because you're capitated and you can't make anything more than that. Secondly, I don't know anybody worth their salt over the age of 50 who is willing to allow somebody else to have control over where they go next. All of us want to be able to have some level of self-determination. And we consistently deprive, even when it comes to, like, should I buy a house or not, or buying a house. I remember the days you almost were punished when you bought a house, because you would lose a certain amount of income if you bought a house rather than if you were renting high. It was cheaper for you to rent high than buy a house. But if you were working at an administrative level, they'd make sure you got a loan. And sometimes it was an interest-free loan to get a house. And my point is simply this, that we don't support the parish pastorate like we support administrative work. And I wonder why that is.
When you say support, what do you mean?
That we're not as supportive of it. We tend to not empower it as much. I mean, even in the way we distribute tithe. One of the reasons pastors leave after a certain point is you get tired of not having enough resources to do the work that you mean to do. You get tired of not being able to have staffing because your money goes away, and the conference will pay for secretaries for themselves with tithe dollar, but you can't do that at the local church with tithe dollar, and you need staff too. And you get to the point where you say to yourself, I can't keep making brick without straw.
Is that your testimony, Tyler?
No. I mean, there are several reasons why I've left twice, and if I came back, I'd leave a third time. But it's that you recognize, and look, I've talked to all of you know people who've left. All of you do.
Of course.
Ask them why.
Many are called, few are chosen.
No, that ain't it. Ask them. Don't come with the bromides.
Whoa.
I mean,
Whoa.
that ain't it. You know that ain't it, Keenan.
I'm not saying that's a blanket for everybody, but I mean that's.
I would say it is the rare minority of person who leaves because they weren't called. You know, it's.
But with Tyler, would you agree? Because I've spoken to a bunch of pastors who had left, and a lot of them give different reasons.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
But
with that.
the number one thing that I do here is burnout. And going back to what I think Floyd said, I think that pastors need to be trained on how to put boundaries, rather, how to set boundaries. Because a lot of pastors, they just don't, they don't know how to do that. They want to save everybody, got good hearts, just want to help, but it leads to burnout. So I think we have to re-educate our pastors on really setting those boundaries to help prevent that. It may not catch everybody, but it may help some.
Well, I agree that self-care is important. I suffered from a lack of self-care, and taking my vacation would be a week of prayer somewhere, which was stupid. And I had to learn the hard way. Burnout is there, but I don't think that's the reason that people are driven out of wanting to be in the Adventist pulpit. Because a lot of the folks who want out of the Adventist pulpit, they want to be in the office. They want to be in the office. And there are reasons for wanting to be in the office too.
What do you think those reasons are, Tally?
Yeah, please share with us why you think that.
Okay. A greater sense of self-determination. That's one. A greater access to resources to do ministry. That's two. A greater sense of what'd you say, Tasha?
We know that's not the case.
Well, I mean, I said access to it. I didn't say you always get it.
Yeah, right. No,
access to it. I mean, when you're in most of our churches, you barely have enough money it's hand to mouth half the time. Number three, a greater level of prestige. All of us require affirmation, and all of us want to, it is a human.
But it's pretty prestigious being a pastor too.
I would say that before Tally says something.
But from the congregation and people, I mean, when you're a pastor, there's some women that would love to marry you, Tally.
Well,
because you are a pastor.
They would marry
elevate you.
They would marry me twice if I worked for the conference office.
No.
Yeah, I mean, are you guys really trying to say to me that there isn't a higher level of affirmation and regard if you work at an
I agree with that.
level?
I agree.
Yeah, well, I want to say that's very dangerous. I understand. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying there, Tally. But anytime you set yourself up to look for validation from a church, from anybody, you are setting yourself up for failure. And I'm not trying to be too idealistic, but maybe I am. But if you don't have that assurance, that validation that comes from God, then you are pastoring from a dangerous place. So I just want to say that.
Well, it's not that you set yourself up for it. I'm simply saying, and Keenan, you're a psychologist, so you're familiar with the hierarchy of human needs. There is a level of the esteem of others that is healthy. And when you are perceived to having achieved, that is a healthy impetus to do things. I mean, and when look at it. Marlena was selected to be the women's ministries coordinator for the conference. Huh?
And
prayer, right. We were all standing up, seal clapping, because the conference done recognized her gifts. Oh, it's so good. Oh, so glad. Go, Sister Marlene. I mean, because
we did that when she became the pastor too.
Oh Lord, help me, please.
That's true. That's you right. You right, Latasha.
The point.
You right.
The point that I can't believe
from Virginia.
I cannot believe
I mean,
He's saying
Tyler,
acceptable.
we hear what you're saying exactly,
Yeah,
but
I don't
what we're
disagree.
saying that is
I
not
can't
always
believe
the
it.
case with everyone. I mean, like some
I am
people,
speaking aggregately and corporately now. I'm not speaking individually.
And he's speaking from his own heart.
but
I
How he
am
what
not
we're
feels.
speaking from
trying
my
to
own heart. I'm
Oh, I'm
say,
speaking.
sorry, my bad.
I am saying. You asked me why do people want to go, and I said because there is a greater level of affirmation and credibility that you get when you become a conference
but
officer.
that's
Okay,
not what
guys,
I was
let's.
looking for. I want to help the women. That was why
It's
I
okay.
went into the administration to help women. That's my desire. It's not about me being
Being
elevated.
high and lifted up. I do want to, since we have an audience here of people, I want to ask them, do you view administrators as elevated or promoted people in the organization over the local pastor?
Or
I know
have a
let's be
higher
honest.
level of anointing.
Yeah, do you see them as a little bit higher on the,
I
let's be
didn't say that, Keenan, but go ahead.
Basically.
I
I,
want to
d-
hear from, I do want to
I
hear,
can't
like, let's be
believe
honest.
y'all.
But you're
I mean,
talking
because I
to
see it, I
people
hear
who
people, oh,
love
that's the
pastors.
president or that's the vice president. That's the, I've seen a little bit of that. You know what I mean?
Okay, Retha Dixon, Donna Austin said yes. Retha Dixon said yes.
Yeah.
Sharisa Rivers said yes. You
Well,
know,
let's change that today.
we can't change it today.
That's how we're.
The zeitgeist of the Adventist work has been steeped for more than a century.
It may be one person on here who mindset will change. And that might be you, Tally. So
Yeah, but that's not going to change the system. My mindset has already changed. I couldn't give a flying fat rat's posterior
Oh,
about somebody in an office somewhere.
But
It
do
is
you know,
never.
Tally, some of those who were appointed didn't want it.
We're
Some of
not
them didn't
talking.
want it.
We're not talking about existential individual issues. We're talking about corporate mindset and acting.
and perception.
I got that. But remember, you said that some people seek
Yeah.
it for
Do
their
y'all see? Do
own.
you see what everybody's saying in the chat? That gummit.
They're saying yes.
yeah,
Do
they
you
get it
see what
from
they're saying?
they get it from pastors like you.
How can I get through this phone? And
Yes. Here we go. It's seen as a more prestigious work.
I don't know why you
I
guys are
agree.
not willing
I've
to
agreed
embrace
with
that.
that. I've agreed with you on that time.
But the thing is that it is not,
Yeah.
and the
Amen.
Bible says it is not.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel you there, Tally. I feel you. I just
I
don't
don't
want you
you
to
hear me. I'm saying listen to
categorize.
the
I
people.
do. I just don't want you to put it a one size fits all thing in administration.
Okay, Tally, let's you're not demonizing administration as a,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
just saying
It's
it needs
not.
to not be
Well, there
elevated.
go Rodney. Rodney got a comment. I'm sorry, Natasha.
It is. I'm not sure what he means. Says it is not.
To
You
your
know.
question.
Say it again.
Yeah.
Say it
Is
again,
it
Rod.
viewed?
When you say it is not, Rodney, what do you mean? Like it
Yeah.
is,
So people are they're saying yes, it is viewed that way.
but it isn't a good thing. Okay. Oh no, that's Sharon saying that. Yeah.
Yeah. He even said perception is reality when it comes to conference.
Without question. Without question.
We perceive.
I
Oh,
mean,
this person has
you know,
been
think about it. I was the pastor of the Germantown Seventh-day Adventist Church, 1990 through 1994. We had and Rodney, the Bible says that administration is not above pastoral ministry, but we put it above it. You know,
Yeah, I've been hearing this lately too. Conference officials is still pastor of church.
it could be helpful. Or if you are an administrator, then be an administrator. My thing is this: why is it that we want to make sure that administrators make more money than pastors do? Why is that?
Because it's also perceived. Well, that's what I meant about being perceived as promotion for that reason. But there's also a certain level of I'm trying to use my words carefully.
Yeah. Take your
The
time.
amount of travel, meetings, decision making, the demand, it is I'm not trying to compare it to pastoral ministry in terms of
Well,
taxing,
you have to compare it because that's what
but
we are doing now. We're comparing
yeah,
it.
but I believe it can be another layer of burnout that I feel like until you've been in administration and until you've been a pastor, you cannot speak on what it's like.
Mm.
I'm not
Because I
speaking on what it's like. I'm asking why do we make sure that they are paid more?
Well, Tally, I don't know about Allegheny East. I have not asked anybody how much they get paid, but I know for a fact in the Florida conference and in the Illinois conference, because I heard directly from the presidents, they have their pastors. Some of their pastors, depending on where they live, they make more than them.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
But
And then I found out that, as they said in the play Poor Again Best, it ain't necessarily so. I mean,
Well,
the
here it
point.
is in school. Hold on, Tally. In school,
Okay.
so at Andrews, working on the D-men, a lot of our classes were taught by conference presidents, and so they told us that because the students they asked them, they said
Well,
no. They said depending on where they live, they make more than the president.
well, bless their hearts. But I'm simply saying that, as Jesus said, where your treasure is, that's where your heart will be also. Our remuneration system tells us how we value things. It's that simple. I mean, now here's my thing. I am not opposed to an administrator being paid. I'm simply saying that we have turned the paradigm upside down, and pastors are perceived to be at the bottom rung of ministerial function in this church. And as a result, ministers are always willing to leave the pulpit to take an office somewhere, and we perceive that to be an elevation. I mean, Tasha said it without, contrivance.
yeah, but I don't agree with the first part. I don't perceive pastors to be at the bottom.
I'm not talking about you.
No, but I don't believe other people perceive them to be at the bottom. Just because they may perceive administrators to be elevated above pastors, that doesn't mean that pastors fall at the bottom. Is it just two things, top and bottom? Because
okay, I'm talking about people who are ordination path professionals. I'm not talking about teachers. I'm not talking about literature evangelists. I'm talking about ministers of the gospel who are ordination path professionals. And you have pastors, and then you have administrators, correct? And you may have some teachers.
Yeah, you have teachers.
You have teachers. Okay, so throw them in there. When it comes to ministry, the person who I remember a conference president telling me, "You don't want to be just a pastor all your life, do you?"
Mercy.
Now, and that's because he was speaking from the zeitgeist of this denomination. The pastor is considered the buck private of ministerial performance. And I remember, I never will forget it. I was an unordained minister in this conference on the back of a truck during camp pitch, slinging cots and chairs with the rest of them. Some of my members came up early on that Friday to get settled. And they saw me on the back of the truck and said, "They got you working, huh, Pastor T? They got you working. It's about time." And they were joking. They were being friendly and joking. And then Pastor Kibble came out of the office wearing a blue seersucker suit and stadium shoes because Kibble was sharp. He just was a sharp guy. And he was just being himself. And he came out. And when they saw him, their entire attitude changed. "Oh, how are you, Elder? How are you, Elder Kibble?" And I realized that they viewed him differently from the way they viewed their own pastor.
How did that make you feel, Tom?
What I'm telling you, that I recognize. I said, I see. They view the conference president as being a pastor for real, and they view me as, buck out in the field. And I said, I see it, and I've been measuring it ever since. And I said, and I went to Elder Kibble. I said, "This is the last time." I said, "The next time I'm on a truck, you'll be standing next to me, or I won't be on the truck." And I meant that, and I wasn't. And I also ended up with a career in radio.
I'm sorry. There's so many comments that I'm sorry, guys. I'm not getting into all of your comments. I did want to mention.
Yeah, and Haven said that I wasn't hurt. I was enlightened. I realized something, that conference officers were viewed differently. I realized it. It wasn't like I felt bad. I love Pat. Never wanted to be a conference office. This
Yeah,
last,
I agree with Havis. I think you would that
I
says something.
wasn't hurt at all.
It was
My perception, the way you have your opinion, my opinion, Tally,
Yeah, but
and
see,
my
but
professional
your
opinion. I
opinion
think.
of my
Hold on,
feelings.
hold on. I'm just saying, you're right, but you have your opinion about everybody. So
No,
mine
I
is that
don't.
you were hurt, man, and you never got over that.
I was.
yes,
That
it was
carries you,
hurt.
and
I was not hurt.
that one thing carried. You said that you held on to that, but I just want to say, Tally, we appreciate you, man. We just want to validate you. I know you are not the pastor on the truck
Save the
no
shade
more.
tree theology.
You are not the pastor on the truck no more, Tally.
And that,
Let it go.
Let me tell you something. That is my deepest sense of loss because I loved I loved West Philadelphia the way Fat Boy loves donuts still. So, I mean, not being a pastor hurts me more than anything. I was not hurt. I just recognized that there was a value system in place that I was not aware of. I was only 25 years old or 24, something like that. I was young. And I thought we were all, colleagues. And I realized that some of us were more equal than others. And I realized that.
So it was in the
The
minds of
president?
the people.
Hmm?
It was in the minds of some of the people.
This is why
it was a difference.
I'm really surprised at this discussion. But this is why when there's a problem in the church, the members will say, we should call the conference. Because the conference is viewed as to where the authority is.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
in
always
some ways, the way the structure, if you want somebody removed or you want somebody,
But Tasha, that's my point. That is why people don't want to be in the parish ministry. That's why they're so eager to leave it. And they all talk that stuff about, man, I love the work. I miss the work. I look forward to that day when I can come back and join hands with you men and the women in the field and be a part of the work on the front line. And they never do come back.
Why don't you think they come back? I think someone asked that. Well, Keith asked, why is it that so
you know what?
The ministries ever return to the pastors?
Good point. Those two men are excellent. They are excellent examples of individuals who came back. Both of them came back.
Palmer came back.
Yeah, let's talk about the between coming back and being sent back. Okay? Yeah, let's be clear. Let's be real here. All, Pete Palmer, Charlie Joe, Norman Miles, all three of them went through the same experience. Let's be real here. It wasn't like they woke up one morning with an epiphany. They found themselves in a position on the wrong end of a vote, and they had to make other choices. And they were gracious in making them. But let's be clear. It wasn't like they woke up and said, I feel like doing.
What about Freddie Russell?
I was going to say the only person who said that was Freddie Russell. Mm-hmm. And I wrote Freddie right after he do it. And I said, Freddie, you got to tell me, what was it that led you? I said, I want to congratulate you for being for having the elevated opinion of the pulpit that allows you to leave the president of the Allegheny West Conference and to return to Berean, But I'm really surprised that you guys are having a difficult time having a candid conversation on this.
This is not difficult. I gave you my answer. You didn't like my answer. You didn't like my answer, so it's like there's no need.
The answer you gave me was, I don't feel that way. And I said, Keenan, I'm not talking about individual feelings. I'm talking about corporate mindset.
No, I understand that, but my point is, you said they're having a difficult. This is not difficult at all for me. It's really not a difficult question to answer. So,
all right. So let me ask you the question, because I may have missed your answer. Why is it that we value administrative ministerial function? Why do we have a demonstrated value of administrative ministerial function more than pastoral parish ministerial function? I'm talking to Keenan right now.
Right. So, of course, I can't speak for everybody because you saying we. I can't speak for everybody. But, of course, sinful nature. Hear me. Just follow me. Human beings want to elevate themselves, and people they perceive, even pastors, they believe that is an elevation, and that's just a hunger for.
That doesn't answer the why question.
Power. I think sin.
So you think it's sin that causes us?
Yes.
You want to go to the conference office?
Let me explain why.
Hey, Trevor, he just said it was sin that made you want to be president.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, he did.
Human nature.
You're talking right now, Trevor.
If you let me explain,
Oh, okay. He
I
told
just
me
need
shut
about.
up and let him explain. I'll
I just
get
need
back to you,
explain.
Trevor.
So human nature is always to elevate yourself, right? To always, right? The spirit of Christ is always to humble yourself, right? So even in pastors, they do perceive that that is an elevation, and they hunger for power. And it's the same thing. Church members, they think the same thing. So that's what I'm saying. That's just the way you made a general statement. I want to match that and make a general statement as well. That's the bigger problem.
But man, thank you, Sister Sharon. This is funny. But listen, also when you look at the local church level, and I think that position, when people get position, it kind of moves something within them. You know, everybody loves that promotion, because back in the day, to be a deacon in the church or the pastor or the leader, everyone elder, they elevate themselves over the rest of the congregation. And people would see them as better than a regular person. So I
Okay.
think that is the human nature of how we see someone else in a different position.
Okay. So I there's this concept of, oh, I know what it was. I was listening to podcast. I think it was Breath of Life actually. And it was talking about respect or value based on a role.
Hmm.
So I do think in some cases the role of administration is seen on a higher level than the role of a pastor.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that the value in what they're contributing differs. Does that make sense?
It's nice that you don't believe that. I am really happy that you don't believe that.
Well, and that is me speaking personally, but I too have seen everything that you've described. I've seen how people change when they're around administration versus around a pastor. I've seen that in real time. So I know that kind of perception exists. I don't know. How do we change that? How do we shift that?
Okay, I'm
How we
glad you
gotta-
asked that. And then we can, the way you change that is you begin to assign value actions to the task of pastoring. Something was flying around my face. It wasn't the
I thought I
spirit
saw
on me.
something.
Yeah. I mean, and that is, for example, you say to a pastor, after you've served 15, 20 years, you are eligible for this bump in salary. And you say to a pastor who, like these two ministers beneath me, if you improve yourself to become a better tool for ministry, we will enhance your salary. You allow your what?
So value monetarily, that's how.
Yes.
To
Yes.
talent. Yes,
Yes.
that's what he considers to be
But
value.
no one else would be privy to know that
That's
to
just
create
one
that.
thing. I don't care how many people know it. If you are
So it's
saying
for
to a
the
person,
pastor to feel value, not for others to see the pastor's money.
yeah, I mean,
Tally would feel value.
you know, look, I'm retired. I'm thinking about you and your family, Keenan.
No.
You know,
Good.
I mean, it's and then, for example, you allow a pastor to become a part of the direction of his own career path in ministry. When he gets to a church, you say, you know, this is the time period that we perceive that, you know, what goals can you generate or for yourself? How do you see ministry going? And then you evaluate it, and the church and the pastor have a part to play in his assignment at the church. Other than that, it's a sentence rather than an assignment. We're sending you to bug tussle. Why? Because we don't like the way you comb your hair. So you give a pastor more say in how he can do that. You allow a church to become a part of the pastor's compensation package and a part of the call of that pastor to their congregation, so that they can become invested in the assignment of that pastor to that church. Now, I know it sounds weird, you know, and like,
What
how
if they
can
don't
that
like the pastor?
then they become a part of the process of him not being the pastor of the church, the same way they do now, except it's open, you know. But these are ways that you do that. You make sure that a pastor, when he is moving to a place, that the arrangements are made that if he chooses to buy a house, that he is able to secure funding to buy himself a home. You know.
Okay. I like these, Sally, and I'm glad I asked the question because you never know who's listening and can take some of these things into consideration. However, I do feel like everything that you mentioned is still just for the pastor. I don't know how that will shift, how that will in turn change for the member to then change how they view
Yeah.
pastor. I
Well,
mean,
it's an educational process.
yeah,
For example, members now, I saw some members saying, I never thought about it this way. Members, just like children, an abused child thinks that that's the way it's supposed to work.
right.
And members think that they're supposed to have people assigned to them. They really feel that, like they don't think. I was talking to a church where the president arbitrarily moved their pastor for no reason. And the member said, well, he's the president. And I said, what does that mean? He said, well, if he thinks it's best, why? I said, confront the president. Help him become a better person by confronting his position. Help him. And I tried to help my president every chance I got.
We do not doubt that one bit.
Trust me, I did.
Someone asked the question: are pastors evaluated? I know there is a process.
And at times, it just depends on the administrator, leader. But sometimes they have been. And there was one administrator that came. I was the head elder. I was able to share in the evaluation of that current pastor.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time I was going to be evaluated by a person who had never pastored and another person who had been in the ministry, I think maybe 8-10 years or something like that. And I had 30 years. And I said, where's my evaluation team? They said, these two people. I said, call me when you get somebody.
Oh, no.
That's right, because you're going to have a process and a level of criteria that you follow to evaluate someone, and age and experience has nothing to do with it.
Experience has a lot to do with it.
Right, tally your experience and they'll see, but not the experience of the evaluator. You have a criteria to follow. Everyone in management has that when you're doing an evaluation process.
Well,
guys, I know we started late, but now we've gone over. And there's so much more we could talk about because Ronnie not starting something, but that's a discussion that could go into another vein in terms of
I want to put Keenan in an office.
Why would you want to do something like that?
So that you can have that experience.
Why?
So that you can have the experience of being able to administer the church from the. So you can
what he does, Tally. You try to put him in administration.
No, I mean for example, he might be able to save people from burnout. He might see somebody and say, "You have Tally anger issues."
Well, Tally, you're joking. You're joking, but pastors do reach out to me, and I do.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I'd like to see you in a position.
So I currently am the pastor of Shiloh Seventh-day Adventist Church, and I'm happy to do that and willing to serve. And I'm also in charge of parking. So according to you, Tally,
elevated.
I'm elevated. I'm in charge of parking.
No.
Put some respect on those directions, right?
Hey, look, I've been in that position.
Next year I'll be flipping burgers. Dennis fries.
At the shack on the campground, right?
Haven says I was a gangster parish pastor. As a pastor, I am very easy with members.
Yes, it is.
I am not very easy with administrators. Waking up in the morning thinking that your title presupposes that you have the right to tell me what to do next is your first mistake.
What I find out that this is what I find out is that when pastors haven't worked in corporate America and they come straight out of the university and get a job, they don't understand I guess you don't want hierarchy or respect, but there is still a level within an organization.
Well,
and without it, it is considered insubordination.
You're speaking now to an individual who sat as the proxy for the chairman for the subcommittee on prison reentry and faith-based initiatives at the United States Conference of Mayors and who served in the administration of governance for the 5th largest city in the country. I know hierarchy and I understand how it works. But I have never been the kind of person who would not tell you what I thought. Never. And as such, like I remember sitting in a mayor's meeting one time, and the mayor said something to me, and I said, with all due respect, Mr. Mayor, that's not how it works. And there was an audible gasp in the room. And the director of social services took me aside and says, "You don't tell the mayor what you think. You do what he says." And I said, "He hired me because he wanted my expertise. I'm going to tell him what I think." And then I went and
say respectfully, though. So.
I did say respectfully. But there was an audible gasp in the room, and
I'm used to that.
Yeah.
Keenan said he respectfully
He had to drop out at 7:30.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess it's time.
It was a good conversation, though, Tally. I hope you don't think we're
you know I don't feel. I mean, one thing I appreciate about us, we can go at an issue and then go have lunch.
Yeah, I love hearing the different perspectives.
We love you, Tally. You look cuckoo, but we love you.
Hey, I know y'all love me. I mean,
can't take leadership. That's what you can't take.
But see, Marlena, that is so false.
It is.
It is so false. I love leadership because I know how many mistakes I can make without it. I mean, what I can't take is authoritarianism and despotism. If you're going to lead me, you have to be accountable to hearing from me.
That's true. I agree with that. Yes, he is, isn't he? He is definitely real. That's why we love him.
Thank you, Sister Barney. Thank you so much. I'm gonna tell you, the members got to y'all today.
I thought let's ask them.
Talking all that happy horse madness.
No, I was telling the truth because I'm just saying, because you say why some people go into administration. I'm just trying to tell you that it's not a one size fits all. That's all I'm saying, Tal. And I still agree.
Somebody was raised in how sometimes the pastors think he's a little elevated than the members.
That's true. I mean, you mimic. You catch it. You catch the value system, the pecking order, the hierarchy.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew as a pastor that my job was to serve my members, not be served by them.
Amen.
And so,
all right, you would have made a great administrator, Tally.
No, I wouldn't. No.
You need to fire everybody.
No. That's my problem. I'm more like Butch Ford.
Y'all do what y'all got to do.
No, I mean, somebody said, Butch would try to save the devil, and I'm like Butch. I mean, I want to give everybody another chance, and because if I'm the administrator, I'm serving you, and so I can't beat up on you. But man, if you my administrator, put your gloves on.
Yeah.
Got to be more years of service to even critique your work. I ain't never heard of nothing like that in my life.
So you got to know a little something before you tell people.
You can know. You don't have to have 30 years. If you got 10 years, that's good.
You can't critique what you don't know.
There's a criteria, and you have records of your work and what you've done. That's all you know about. Yeah,
there were no records. There were no records of the work.
That. Okay.
There were no records of the work. Marlene, when's the last time somebody had a record of your work? Answer me, woman.
He Adventist, right?
I
Oh, mercy. But no, great. And thank you to our audience as well. You have been just as much a part of this conversation as we have. And I always say, we have not had the opportunity to share all the comments in the chat on Facebook and YouTube. So do yourself a favor and go and read the other platform. Some great comments have been put there that we didn't get a chance to display. But thank you guys for, as always, engaging us. And thank you, Tally, stirring the pot. What'd you say?
No, I'm just laughing at the conversation.
You are?
Yeah, it was just funny. It was funny.
Oh, no. All right, we'll see. We'll see. But yes, thank you. We hope we stretched your thoughts this evening. Now, make sure your pastor feels extra special this Sabbath and that they feel valued.
Amen.
Tally, stop it. It has to start somewhere.
Help me, Lord, and
Until
help me.
next time, guys. Thanks.
Always a pleasure, guys.
Take care.